Good morning. Is it working? I don't think so. It is switched on. Ah, here I am. I would like to talk to you about mass adoption. Adoption is the process of a technology being taken in use by people. So it starts with 0 people using it, or 1 people, and it ends with how many? 4 billion, 5 billion, something like that. So mass adoption. Bitcoin is a decentralized monetary system. Decentralized means that there is no single authority that governs the system. No CEO, no boss, no president. A very large group of people, millions maybe, who do not know each other, who do not even have to trust each other, cooperate to agree on who owns what. And this solves major problems, such as people being censored or excluded from the financial system, banks or tech companies going bankrupt, excluding people or discontinuing their services. Decentralization creates a money with desirable properties. I have 5 of them. I borrowed them from Andreas Antonopoulos. Bitcoin is open. Anyone can participate without asking permission. It's inclusive, it does not discriminate. Bitcoin is borderless. No headquarters or jurisdiction. No different service levels for different people, different pricing in different countries. Bitcoin is neutral. The system has no opinion on how, when, or where you spend your money. Bitcoin is censorship resistant. Payments are expressions of your preference, what you eat, what you find beautiful, your political stance, religion, and nobody can block a transaction because they don't like your preference. Censorship resistance. Bitcoin is public. Anyone can audit the ledger. Anyone can verify that the rules have been followed and no one cheated. Andreas Antonopoulos called these the 5 pillars of blockchains. But not just any blockchain. Decentralized blockchains. Decentralization is not a binary property, yes or no. Something is either decentralized or not decentralized. It's a scale. Starting on one end with not decentralized at all, like central bank digital currencies, private blockchains. Next to it you have teeny tiny little bit decentralized, Binance Chain, Solana. And on the other end of the spectrum you have very decentralized, like Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin fully 100% decentralized? Well, there are some things that can be better, even. But decentralization is the key ingredient. It is what makes this technology revolutionary. The question is, what do we need to do? What do we need to maintain and even improve this extreme level of decentralization that we have with Bitcoin? My answer is mass adoption. We need mass adoption to maintain decentralization. It's because of the miners. The block reward for the miners will become less over the years, so we need the protocol to be used by people, by many people. Adoption means not being used by just the innovators or early adopters, but also by the majority of people. What are the conditions for mass adoption? What do we need? Well, the majority of people will voluntarily adopt a technology, any technology, as soon as it is better than the alternatives. The masses will adopt a technology when it's better than the alternatives, not earlier. The nerds, the tinkerers, the curious people, they might decide to use a technology even if it's slower, if it's more expensive or more inconvenient than the alternatives. Only the nerds, the tinkerers, the curious, we call them the innovators. Take, for example, electric cars. For years, they were far worse than normal cars. Heavy, expensive, low range, no charging stations. For the first few years, only EV nerds would want an electric car. Only the EV nerds, the electrical vehicle nerds, were willing to suffer the problems associated with the novelty of the technology. But technology advances exponentially, gradually, then suddenly. And 10, 20 years later, EV cars are cheaper, faster, and more convenient. We're currently around the tipping point. Some countries, like Norway, almost 70% of the cars sold are electric. Gradually, then suddenly. Is Bitcoin usable as money? Isn't the price too volatile? Can you even pay anywhere? Is Bitcoin better than the alternatives? In the Netherlands, for most people, no it isn't. Not as a money. We have brilliant payment infrastructure here. Our currency does not hyperinflate yet, not yet. And most people trust the government. I'm talking about the masses, about the majority. Look at the crypto adoption index. Chainalysis makes it every year in September. They publish the report, and it says currently the top 20 countries with the highest adoption in real-life use. You see countries like Vietnam, Ukraine, India, Brazil, Russia, Turkey, Nigeria. There are two Western countries in it, well, Western, United States and UK. UK is new. Last year it was only United States, no European countries. Why? Because our money is working just fine for most people, for the majority. Okay, there are two groups in the Netherlands, in Western Europe, for whom Bitcoin is already better than the alternatives. The first group is the oppressed and excluded, sure. And the other group is the power users. But for the majority, not yet. However, Bitcoin is technology. So, gradually, then suddenly, applies to Bitcoin as well. For example, my favorite example is Lightning. In 2017, I talked to a lot of people, journalists, media, and they were curious. They investigated Bitcoin and they came to the conclusion Bitcoin is not usable as a means to pay at the counter, to buy coffee. And they were right. In 2017 it wasn't. But then in 2015 the Lightning white paper was published. 2017 where the SegWit merged. 2019 the Lightning Torch. And 2021 Lightning went mainstream. And if you ask the same question again 4 years later, 5 years later, the answer to the question is, can Bitcoin be used to buy coffee, is very much, yeah, fine, works fine. 24/7, within a second, you can send money almost free to the other side of the world. Lightning. So, gradually, then suddenly. For mass adoption, we need three things. The first is technological improvement. The second one is education. And the third is regulations that allow decentralized technology to exist. Not just regulations. We need regulations for the majority of people. They want things to be regulated, to be sure that it is legal. But it's very easy to make regulation that kills a technology. There's no problem, they can do it. So we need regulation that allows decentralized technology, Bitcoin, to exist. My role in the Netherlands, together with Peter and Bart, is to support, to facilitate these three pillars. We believe that crossing the chasm from the early adopters to the early majority requires having open and honest conversations about Bitcoin. The full story, the strength and the weaknesses, the opportunities and the risks. And for the record, this does not involve slamming have fun, staying poor in people's faces. Why? Why we need those honest conversations? Because it would allow everyone, including those with presumptions and prejudices, to make a fair assessment of this technology. So this is what we did, starting in 2017. I'll just tell you my story, my journey maybe, of our journey. I do it together with Peter and Bart. In 2017 we started writing articles, elaborate articles explaining the technology, providing context to news and developments. What does it mean, what happened? It didn't take long before we were asked to help journalists and media to write understandable and accurate stories. Because for them it's also hard, it's a technology, it's complex, it involves cryptography, financial markets, math, all kinds of ingredients that are scary. But not if you explain them properly. It's okay if you don't like Bitcoin, but not if it's based on bullshit arguments. That's what our plan was. In 2018 we started a weekly podcast called Satoshi Radio and a Telegram community, a few thousand people. We were invited by all kinds of other podcasts from all parts of the community and YouTube shows as well, from all parts of society that had nothing to do with Bitcoin. We were asked to explain to their audience what this crypto thing is about. We were invited on radio and television to explain what happens in the world of crypto and to give comments for newspapers. And last year we wrote a book for a general audience. It's called Our Money is Broken. And the subtitle is And Why Bitcoin is the Solution. Of course, we mean why Bitcoin might be part of the solution, but you have to put some strong words on the cover of a book, of course. And in the book we show the different ways in which our monetary and financial system is unfit for the future, and maybe how Bitcoin can be part of the solution. It was a bestseller, 30,000 copies sold in the Netherlands, and got a lot of comments from people that are not Bitcoiners that read the book and say, it's interesting, I want to learn more about it. And the last step in our journey is that we are invited regularly by politicians, officials, regulators, banks and fintechs to help them understand what's coming at them. This is what we did, or maybe to be modest, what happened to us. And if we had to do it all over again, we would give ourselves 4 pointers. Maybe you can interpret this as what can you do in your country, in a country, to facilitate mass adoption? First, build authority by doing. Show and tell about how Bitcoin disrupts existing money structures to a wide range of audiences, not just preaching to the choir. The second one, connect with and educate key stakeholders, supervisors, fintechs, banks, accountants, tax experts, wealth managers. Third one, help politicians and regulators understand how their bills, their laws, might unintentionally kill the most important innovation of the 21st century. And the last one, it's a bit of a meta argument. At all times in the process, keep the option open that Bitcoin might fail for various known and unknown reasons. Strong opinions weakly held. So you might very easily fall in the trap of the echo chamber. Our mission is to show the enormous benefits that a decentralized monetary system could bring to the world. To a world where central banks are making central bank digital currency and tech companies want to make their own global monies. And to discuss what aspects of Bitcoin are still troublesome and need to be solved by technology, education, or regulation. We are doing this in the Netherlands, and for the regulatory part also in Europe. And I'm sure that there are other people active in other European countries doing the same in other languages. And our next step in Europe is to join forces, to learn from each other and share experiences and materials, to not reinvent the wheel 28 times in 28 different European countries, and to make sure that Bitcoin has a seat at the table when decisions are made about the future of our money. So I would really like to speak to you if you're one of the people in other countries doing the same as we do in the Netherlands. Let's unite. Let's join forces. And to conclude, I was invited by BTC Direct, one of the sponsors of this conference, to come to their spot in the exhibition hall for a Q&A immediately after this session. So maybe I can see you there. And thanks for your time.